Hi, everyone. Welcome to our episode 4 of our chakra series of Astro Yoga Chat. So let's start with a meditation. Okay, let's bring our palms together right at our heart. Wherever you are, like just feel your seat. If you're sitting in a chair, if you're sitting on your couch, just feel your legs and feel your hips. With your eyes closed, bring your awareness into the center of the eyebrows, into the mind space, and relax your forehead. Take an inhale through the nose if possible, and a long exhale through the nose. And bring your awareness now right towards your belly, behind the navel. And with the use of your creative mind, imagine the element of fire. Notice the flame of your fire. As you take your next inhale, allow that flame to get slightly larger. And whenever you exhale, let that flame come back to its original size. And you do it again, big inhale, that flame gets a little bigger. And then exhale, the flame comes back to normal. And slowly bringing the awareness back to the breath and back to the center of the eyebrows. Release your palms right onto your thighs. Slowly open up your eyes. As we come into our space, we're going to talk to you today about the Manipura Chakra and the planet of Mars. I am Kate.
I'm Natalie. Hi. Yes, so we'll pull up the chart again just to see where we are. So we are at the third chakra. It's called Manipur or Manipura. And yeah, you see here, it's the yellow circle in the middle in the navel area, and it's ruled by Mars. And I think it's a wonderful planet to connect it to. They have so much in common, Mars and the Manipura Chakra. It's really wonderful. So what is the Manipura Chakra about? We just talked before the show. It has the word gem or jewel inside. So apparently it's really precious, right?
Oh, very precious. So Mani means jewel. Pura is a dwelling. So they call this chakra like the city of gems. And you said something really awesome before, Natalie, where you were like, well, if it's a gem, it must be precious. It must be, it's like it's worthy. It's this place of not necessarily, I don't want to call it a place of beauty, but it's this place of like self-worth. It's a personal power. So the physical chakra, where it's located within your body, the energy where it's located is right behind the belly. It's considered to be like in your solar plexus. So if you think of like your lower ribs and your belly area, and if you remember from the first two chakras, so you have your Muladhara chakra, which is earth energy, your Svadhisthana chakra, which is your water energy. Now we're up to Manipura chakra, and this is your fire energy. So this is the place of like personal power, of passion, I like to think of it as like, this is where like you become the alchemist of your life. Because those first two chakras are like developed as you're growing in your foundation. And it's, not to say that you don't have that much control over it, but, it's a little bit of a foundation that's put in place. As you lift up your energy into your Manipura chakra and you find this, what does fire do? Fire, it rises, the energy rises. It also clears things out. It can clear things out. The good news is it's within our own elemental system, we have water right underneath. So if your fire ever gets too much, and we'll talk about the balance of it all, you can also bring in your water. But just to talk a bit more about the chakra, it's, it's the sense of your chakra, of this chakra is sight. So it's like what you see. It's vitalizing and energizing. It's very transformative. So when you are learning and you're asking the questions in your life of how are my energy centers? How, is my Manipura chakra activated? Am I feeling the passion and energy in my life? These are the questions that you do want to contemplate as you're tapping into these energetic spots. So the planet Mars, Natalie, do you feel like, do we see a correlation with fire and passion and power?
So much. I mean, Mars is the planet of war, but before I dive into Mars, I really saw it in front of my eyes, like as you develop as a child. I mean, isn't there that age as a kid where they start saying no? Right? So between like 18 months and 4 years where they say this chakra really gets developed. So that's where the child finds its identity, and I have a will and I can do something else than my parents want. So it's a really interesting phase. And so it also describes already Mars a little bit. Yes, Mars is the planet of war, and it's fiery, and it has impulse and energy, and it's combative, and yeah, in some cases it's even like aggression, but it has a lot to do with energy and will. It also has to do with your sexual drive. It has to do with muscles. So people with a very strong third chakra, they can be athletes. It has to do with courage, because planet of war, so people who go to war and fight, it is about determination and motivation. And in some cases, like when Mars transits certain houses, especially like, Mars is connected to the 6th house, it can indicate like injuries or accidents. Because it's a fire, it has to do with inflammations in the body. And it's about weapons, even like knives and stuff like this. And it rules Aries and Scorpio. It's the old ruler of Scorpio before they discovered Pluto. And it's exalted really strong in Capricorn, because Capricorn is a sign that moves ahead up the ladder. It's very determined and it has a goal. So without Mars actually in your life, a strong Mars, you cannot follow goals or visions. I'm, for instance, a person, I have Mars on my rising. So your rising is your body. I have Mars right on top of it. And I always do say, like, I'm a person who really does whatever, I set my mind to. And people say, I adore you for this. And for me, it's very normal. But for other people, it can be really difficult. And of course, where Mars is not so good is in Cancer, because Cancer, water sign, right? The emotions like underneath. It's about home and family and feeling secure, and Mars, likes to fight. So it's a little contrary. So that's a position where Mars is not so good at. Yes.
Now, can I ask?
Of course, it's red, right? It's red.
I know. And then yes, it's red. Why? Fire, passion. What is red? Also the yantra, when we talk about symbols of chakras, of where to place these symbols or how to visualize these centers in your body. The yantra for Manipura chakra is a triangle, a red triangle with the apex pointed down. So if you could just imagine an inverted triangle right by your navel pointing down, that's the symbol of this Manipura chakra. Now, you said something before, Natalie, and I'm going to ask you as the kook astrologer over here, what does exalted mean? When you said that Mars is exalted, like, what does that mean? If a quick answer, and if it's not quick, then don't worry. But
also usually a planet rules 2 signs, except for the sun and the moon, because they're not really planets, like they're the luminaries. Like Mercury rules Gemini, like our sign, and
Mm.
Virgo. And so Mars is strong, as I said, in Aries and in Scorpio. But there is another sign that he also does really well. So that means exalted, like Venus is exalted in Pisces. She doesn't rule Pisces, but when she's in Pisces, there's a lot of Venusian stuff that really does well. So it just means it's a spot where Mars in Capricorn is really strong and good. So when you have Mars in Capricorn, that's a wonderful place. You are very determined, and you can really, as you said, be an alchemist and do things and follow through. Follow through, I think, is a good word for Mars too.
Interesting. Follow through. Yeah. And definitely for this chakra, following through and finding passion, I would love to share a personal story about how I worked on my Manipura chakra I worked on it for probably half a year, because I was finding myself at a point in my career, in my yoga teaching career, where things were feeling quite stagnant. It was like the flame was there, but it wasn't really doing much, right? So like when we need to create shifts and changes in our life, when we need to turn metal into gold, like we need that fire needs to come up from within us. That furnace needs to be lit. So I practice Kapalabati breath, which is so pranayama is breath work, and Kapalabati, the translation means skull shining breath. And it's fast, vigorous exhalations out through the nose, which I will include a link in our episode description to an example of how to perform Kapalabati, because it's sharp exhales out of the nose, and I don't have any tissues here, and I'm afraid a booger is going to fly across the screen.
I have some if you want.
Thank you. But I practice Kapalabati breathing for every day, and with the intention of igniting my fire. It wasn't even just like, oh, let me do this. It was like, no, let me connect to this place within me that holds my personal power. Because we all know that when, your life depends on like you starting up that furnace, you creating that energy within you. Other people can give it to you, but imagine if we always relied on other people to give it to us, then we become dependent on this other person. It's like, no, we have the elements within us. We have the power within us. We just have to activate it.
And I mean, there are also cases like, of course you can activate it. And what really always works is like simple, like doing sit-ups too. Like I also teach not only yoga, but also Pilates. And it's mainly core. And I always realize, like after teaching a yoga class, it's a lot of explaining and talking and correcting people. And it's a little bit, depleting from my physical strength. And after I teach a Pilates class, I'm like, oh, I'm Superman. I feel so strong. So it's really activating my energy and everything. So you really feel it a lot. But of course, there's people who have already too much fire, right? I mean, there are people that are a little bit more aggressive, when they answer you, and they're always like a little bit fight if they want to start a fight and an argument. And of course, then you have to deal differently with it because the fire is just too much, or it's like people who always need to run and work out and whatever. It's just too much of that energy. So then you have to pull back, and then it's more for those people like, maybe sit in meditation or follow a guided meditation, do breath work that calms them more. So it's all about the balance, right, in life. We don't want excess or deficiency. We want the balance.
And in order to know where you lie on that spectrum is for you to go within yourself. And it's not even go within yourself, but just be aware of yourself. Let's just say that. Just be aware of where you're lying on the spectrum. Are you so angry that you're like on fire, going crazy, passionate, like or are you on the other side where you're just like, I don't have the energy to do this? So it's
Or
like,
I don't want to argue, like, when you block
mhm,
your anger and, you start being passive aggressive or you don't show it, like, that's also a wrong way. I mean, it needs to be channeled. You cannot just, burst out, but, you have to be able to release it in a certain way.
yeah, it's funny. Also in yin yoga, we talk a lot about the liver being the energy center of anger, and how, like, when I think about Mars, which is that fiery red planet, right? When I think about my passion, when I think about my, the emotion, let's say, of anger, prior to me practicing and really studying yoga, I can go from 0 to 1,000 like this. Like I could just like go real fast. And then now I go from maybe 0 to 60. You know what I mean? Like it's like a little bit shorter, like, and which I'll take, because those little few seconds gives me an opportunity to compose myself, to ground myself, and to say, do I need to get so angry? Do I need, and sometimes I still do, because it's what it is, but it's that understanding of yourself, of saying like, these are my patterns, or this is how I do, and then something else I just wanted to talk really quick about the Manipura chakra. When we talk about that, it's our power and our self-worth. Self-worth is a big energy for all of us. And, when if somebody asks me, like, do you value yourself? Do you know your self-worth? That's a big question, so some of these questions are not necessarily easy for you to answer 1, 2, 3. This is for us to take in and to digest and to meditate on, or just to contemplate, and find and connect with yourself where you are today with this concept. Like, maybe that's one of our homeworks, right? It's like, how do you feel about your self-worth?
So realize, as you said, where you are on the spectrum, and then, set yourself like little goals. Like if you're used to like outbursts, like, I take a breath, before when a situation arrives, or if you're very shy and you pull back, like, next time something happens I don't agree with, I'm gonna try to speak up. I'm gonna say, I don't agree, it doesn't feel good or whatever. So, and also with your dreams and motivations and all of that, like start setting yourself certain goals and going through, like pulling through. I
Yeah.
think this is very important.
So that's part of our homework, everyone, for this third chakra, Manipur, is to create small goals that you can work on. So that way it also works on your willpower. It works on like your discipline in a sense. So if if you think about your self-worth, and when you actually follow through and you keep yourself disciplined and focused, and you're moving in the direction of where you want to go, you light your inner flame. Like you become stronger within yourself. Like you're just so that's part of our homework, and we would
And
love.
of course, we have the asanas, right? So we have
Oh,
Kapalabati, and then like all kinds of yoga poses where you need your core, right? You have some more for us, Kate?
yeah, good one. So let me share my screen. Let's see here. Da, 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 da. The one pose that I have here is Warrior One. So in Warrior One, can you see my cursor by any chance? Can you see my little, but in Warrior One, as you're lifting up from the pelvic floor, you're lifting up from the navel, you're not pulling your belly back per se, but there's this lift of energy from the center. That's definitely one pose. And then can you see this chaturanga?
Not yet, it's still
Okay.
warrior.
Oh, it's still Warrior One. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me do this. And new share. Great. This one.
Yes.
Great. So now with the chaturanga, this is your core. This is like drawing up from your center. This is another yoga posture that we can practice. Let me see. And I do have, and actually our Prasarita Padottanasana, which is a wide-legged, can you see that, Natalie?
Yes. And
Yeah.
it's together.
Yeah. And then this pose actually is really helpful. This is a variation with a twist, but this pose is very helpful because not only do you have your feet solid on the floor, but you're lifting the energy. When you think of, like, let's say triangle pose as well, you're lifting your energy up into the Manipura Chakra. So it's this place of, like, from that, like the triangle with the apex pointed downwards. So this is another pose that you can practice. You can have both hands on the floor, or you can do this variation with one hand down, one hand up to get into your spine as well.
I also do like Navasana boat pose, like, center is activated, and even more than Navasana, Ardha Navasana. So when your lower back is still on the floor, the legs are lifted, but your chest is up, shoulder blades are up. That's also so much core strength, and yeah, Manipura Chakra.
And one thing I would love to just, maybe this would be the last thing to share. I'm not, but whatever else will come out, of course. But remember that because this energy center has to do with your fire and how you can you can light up your fire. You can light up your fire through different yoga postures, through meditation, through contemplation, through understanding how your fire right now is moving. So if your fire is really low, you can lift it. If your fire is really high, you can drop it down a bit. And take your time. Take your time. When we're talking about our self-worth, when we're talking about our personal power, as I mentioned, I worked on Manipura Chakra for 6 months. It wasn't something that came from one second to the next. Like, this is part of your practice of developing your energy in this life. So, take your time. I just wanted to share that because sometimes we're looking for ways to make things happen really fast. And as you definitely, Natalie, as studying so much of astrology, you got to let things pass. Things are going to pass with their timing.
Yeah, there's a time to everything. Lord Saturn, ruler of time, right? Kate, what do you think about thinking or even speaking Ram, like as the mantra, Ram?
Yeah. So the beach, the beach, which means a seed, the mantra for this Manipura chakra is room, room, room. So room. So if you think of, like, right there in your belly, if you can close your eyes and room, room, starts with the letter R. So room, room, room. And then you can feel this energy within your, like, around your belly. You can feel it lighting up. It's like starting to come up. Also, we haven't really spoken for this chakra at all about the color associated with the chakra. While Mars is associated with red, and so is our yantra, the red apex triangle pointed downwards. The color associated with this mantra is yellow. And there's a lotus flower that represents each of the chakras in their location, and it's a yellow lotus flower.
And isn't it also with the flame, when it's very hot, it's like brighter, like red is like the cooler part and the really hot part is like yellow, whitish.
Yes, yes, yes. So element of fire, hold our personal power. Think of the planet Mars also. Is there a, I don't know, like is there a prayer for Mars? Like, how you told us about Saturn and, like, what Saturn likes and, like, how we can appease Saturn or be nice to Saturn. Is there anything with Mars that we can do?
I mean, there are mantras for all the planets, and Mars in Vedic is Mangala. So you could, for instance, say Om Nava Mangala Namaha or something like this. So there are mantras, yes.
Om Namah Mangala. Om. Say, can you say that again?
I think it's more something like Om Shrim Mangala. I think it's Om Shrim Mangala Namaha. But there are certain versions, so yes.
Yeah. Om Shri Mangala Namaha.
Namaha is always at the end. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Great. Great.
So honor your power
Yeah.
and
honor
trust
your power.
finding your power. And if you feel you're on the spectrum of not having enough, like speaking up and stepping up, it's so worth to transform from where you are. It's always going up further, right?
Yeah. And this is pretty much going to be the last chakra when we talk about, as we move into our episode for next week, we're moving up. So we're moving up in also like spiritual, and we're moving up less of like earthly elements. And now we're going to be moving up into the ethereal. So, concentrate on your Manipura chakra. See how it's, your furnace is lit currently. Your self-worth, your self-power, your self-esteem, because again, no one else can really give that to you long term. Someone can give it to you very shortly and like, with a beautiful compliment and say, wow, like you're so great. And then you feel that fire. You're like, oh, thank you. But then the minute you turn the corner and you have a negative thought, what happened? Pfft, your fire's out. You're like, oh, I'm not great. All of that stuff has to come from within you. So,
wonderful closing word. It has to come from within you. Yes.
So
Thanks so much.
thank you, everyone. Thank you. See you next week.